Well, speaking of embracing things, we will come to now the battle of former friends who don't embrace each other any longer because they hate each other and wanted to fight. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, did they tell us in the pre-match publicity that this was an MMA rules match, knockout or submission?
No, and they aired that video I told you was so great. They aired it before the match. That video about their whole background, they got you pumped up for it. I'm thinking, man, they could work a real hot match and just kick the shit out of each other. Nowhere in that did they say it would be MMA rules. No.
But then why? This whole thing, well, the audience reaction told the story because this was actually one of the best female wrestling matches I've ever seen, and nobody gave two shits about it. Because first of all, I don't think that anybody they didn't see it coming because it came out of nowhere that Shayna just tackled Ronda from behind and kicked shit out of her. Then for a week or two there, we weren't sure who was supposed to be the sympathetic babyface figure in this. And then they did the sit down that aired. Was it on Raw? Yeah, 5 days before the.
It was on Raw.
5 days before the big match, they did the sit down that you liked that I missed again because I was skipping the entrances in this fucking thing and I had no on-screen fast forward. But they didn't mention the stipulations of the match until the match got in the ring and was introduced, and then they gave the stipulations. And combine that with the fact that nobody has given a shit about Ronda Rousey pretty much for months now because this last run she's looked like she didn't care and didn't want to be there. We've said that many times. The people just sat there and they didn't give a shit about this, did they? The one time she really puts her heart and soul in something and tries to do something because it's with her best friend and people are over her already. Remember,
it came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere.
Yes.
Again, they were a tag team. They've been friends. They were a tag team. They rushed a breakup. And then we ended up here with a stipulation that was never announced. How are they supposed to react? No one's expecting this kind of match. They've done nothing to get this kind of match over. All of a sudden...
None of the angles were,
Yeah, all of a sudden it's the Jean LaBelle Classic.
But besides that, think about this. Remember when Ronda made her debut several years ago, whatever year it was, at WrestleMania in the mixed tag, and everything she did tore the house down because she was a star then. And everything in that first run that was about a year, she was one of the biggest stars in the company, male or female.
Well, the other thing, if we're going to be honest, Shayna Baszler is good at what she does, but she's not the heel Stephanie McMahon is.
Well, that's where I was going with this. But then on this last time, Ronda came back having pissed off wrestling fans to begin with and said a bunch of shit while she was out. Then she comes back and looks like at various points in time, she doesn't want to be there, or there ain't nothing to the promo, or the match, And meanwhile, Shayna Baszler has been marketed on and off as one of the girls, and everybody knows from from their history that they're friends. But Shayna has not been pushed as a single at the level of Ronda. The people kind of turned on Ronda because they didn't sense she wanted to be there to begin with. And so they didn't really care that Ronda and Shayna were fighting each other in any style. And we got this. And I think it was an indictment of Ronda Rousey and the angle and, just lack of interest from the people in these personalities, because it was one of the most realistic girls matches I've ever seen. But the fans could give a shit if Ronda burst into flame. They were working a shoot kind of grappling MMA hybrid match and doing it. There was some stiff shit going on and they were working their ass off and the people were sitting there and the crickets were chirping. And I was right. Just go home. I'm embarrassed for you. And finally, Shayna choked her out and Shayna won. And it was one of the better worked shoots for the time it was in there that you will see. And it's not that the people don't understand wrestling. When Brock or Cody got a double wrist lock on the other one, the place came apart. It's because they cared what those two were doing. So people are, again, I saw people on Twitter were like, well, this crowd just didn't like wrestling. No, they didn't like the wrestling these people were doing because it was these people. That's what I think.
And this booking.
Well, yeah, because they had been made to be meaningless and the issue was confusing.
Yeah, I mean, you would think this would be the stipulation in the third match, maybe. And you would get there somehow, so it made sense. They rushed right to it. We'll see if we ever see Ronda again. You know, the highlight of this match for me was seeing Jose Ramirez knock out Tim Anderson during the baseball game. That would happen in the middle of this. You had to
get that one in.
Yeah, it was the same time. This was boring the shit out of me because I was like, what the fuck's happening here? And then the real action was happening in the White Sox-Indians game.
Which did you have on the small screen and which on the big screen?
I had Peacock on the TV because I could actually just say it into my remote Xfinity because they own Peacock. It's Comcast. Yeah. It comes on the TV. And then I had, all of a sudden, Twitter started blowing up with all the White Sox Indian stuff. And then the commentary version came out. And then the slow-mo version came out. It was great. It was a wonderful night of baseball action. This is why baseball's the best.
All right. Well, speaking of baseball action, we're going back to SummerSlam.